1 and 2 and ching chong potato.
Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I am PETEY, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, as always, my quorum of record reviewers. We got none other than Drew.
Hey.
We got Patrick.
Sup?
And we've got Brett.
Oh, hey.
Yes. We're here gathered to talk about music, and the provider of said music this week is none other than Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
Well, this is a band called Madness. Many know them by a hit or two they had in the 80s, but this is their first album with the original lineup since 1984. Came out in 1999. It's a little album called Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a fascinating little contribution and interesting, like a reunion into true to form. Brett, what would be the expectations that you had coming into this album?
Seeing that, like, I did little research on what this was. Actually, I thought that when I heard the band name and the album together, that it was an album name. So I didn't put two and two together when I pumped it into my Google machine, because you will likely have to pump it into the Google machine to find this. And I was like, wait a minute, is this those guys? And they continued to make music. So yeah, my expectations were that this wasn't going to be an album by Madness, that it was going to be the album Wonderful Madness.
By Jim Johnston or something like what's his name?
Like,
Nick Johnston. Wonderful Madness. That's what we're talking about. Patrick, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Not entirely dissimilar from Brett. I love Madness. Like, One Step Beyond is just a good freaking time of an album. And I'm familiar with their early stuff. I had no idea they got back together and made music again. So when Drew was like, I'm going to do this Madness album called Wonderful, I'm like, why am I not aware of this? This is not an album I am familiar with. And he's like, oh, it's from 1999. I'm like, didn't they like break up in the 80s? And they did break up in the 80s. And like, a decade and a half later came back and made a record.
Mm-hmm. And they made a record. And the themes elements are what, Drew?
Well, early in their career, as Swagger was saying, One Step Beyond, and the name of their
Absolutely.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, Era 7. It's like those. It's One Step Beyond, Absolutely 7, Rise and Fall, I think, are the four big ones.
Those were the early ones. And like early on in their career, they were doing the very ska, very two-tone sound. At a certain point, they decided, well, we're going to do ska. We're going to keep the ska backbone, but we're going to incorporate whatever's going on in pop music. And that's where you got the albums that most people in America will know. Like Our House came out of that era of Madness. And you get that sort of sound. They broke up in the late 80s. They got back together, some of them, with other musicians. But this was the first time they got all the old band back together, right? And in Wonderful, they kind of put that ska sensibility back in it. But, as I said, this was the late 90s. And as many people might know, the late 90s, early 2000s there was a bit of a swing revival happening on the radio. Brian Setzer Orchestra was doing stuff, and there was a lot of commercials and other smaller bands and one-hit wonders and stuff that were doing this swing sound. So they decided to add a swing element into it. And as far as genres that can mix with like ska, especially two-tone ska, swing kind of makes it really easy. Just as a sort of tempo and as a like sort of rhythm section sound, it makes it really easy to mix the two. The sound is great. The horns and the keys are very strong in this, in my opinion. And the lyrics tend to go on the bit weird sometimes, especially songs like Johnny the Horse and Drip Fed Fred, but they're always fun to sing along to, and it's just a fun album overall.
Brett, what would be the themes and elements that caught your attention?
Well, there's a very large variety of sounds that come from this album. and it comes from a really weird time in music, especially when like the tone of this album sounds like it. Like honestly, you could have told me that this album was recorded 15 years before it was, and I would have believed you. There are some silly keyboards in this. Like, so there's some silly instrumentation. There's some weird like noises, and there's like 53 members of the band, so they all get their own doohickey to play. Like I bet there's at least like, is there one guy is there a guy whose like job it is to just bust a move up there? Like, there's got to be like but like the vocals are mixed in a noteworthy fashion because there's a bunch of stuff going on. But like it's like we want to make the most album out of this album, and they did. But the keys, even though they were cheesy, they were really well done. Like if you have the 80s electric keyboard, electric piano sound, but the guy who's behind it is really good. That really stuck with me.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what would be the themes and elements that caught your attention?
So like I said, I listened to, I've up until today, I'd only listened to the old, late 70s, early 80s Madness, the sort of their wonderful blend of two-tone and pop music, and sort of, they kind of skirted the edge of new wave a little bit because that always kind of had something going about that time. So I know what Madness does. And in a lot of ways, this sounds like a Madness record that was recorded in 1999. And everything Brett said, I agree with. There was completely unnecessarily electronic strings in here. And if you took those electric strings out and that was the only change you made to the record, my enjoyment would climb a great deal. That said, there are good songs here. It's Madness, and it still sounds like Madness. It sounds like grown-up Madness, but, the horns are fantastic. The sax lines are exactly what the band whose first single was a sax solo.
Yes.
Like that to me rings true. They still know how to write a catchy pop song, and they still are clearly having a good time. I feel like the songs are here, but some of the recording choices I think let it down.
So, Drew, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on for you? Some of your favorite songs?
One, there were words in that song.
Hey, don't watch that. Watch this. This is the heavy, heavy monster sound. It's like 4 sentences and then amazing, like, just sax run.
I didn't say there was a lot of words, but there were words. No, but the songs to me that really stick out, the 3 that I wanted to talk about was first the opening track. It opens on Love Struck, and it gives you an exact idea what Madness was going to do with their sound. It was that finger popping sort of swing sound that was very ska infused, and it gets your toe tapping right from the start, in my opinion. The keys are great. It has a cool melody, fun hook, danceable hook right from the get-go. The Communicator to me was a song that this was, as I said, the first album, because they had broken up and then came back partially and all that. This was the first time they got the original band back together. And The Communicator to me felt like them having a bit of fun and going really back to that pure, like, sort of 80s two-tone sound that they were known for at the beginning. And it was the most ska on the album, and it felt like them having fun. And then Drip Fed Fred. Again, as Brett said, there are some silly keyboards on this song, or on this album, and Drip Fed Fred had some great parts of it. The song's lyrics had some dark humor to them, which was really sort of cool. And notably, it was Ian Dury. It was actually his last song that he ever contributed anything to as a singer before he passed away in 2000 from cancer. I believe colorectal cancer. So it was sort of weird that, in my opinion, that his last song was also a song about death and stuff like that. I just thought that was sort of weird, but it was a his sort of delivery made that song just feel super cool to me.
Yeah, it's definitely some Britishness going on in that song in particular.
Oh, you don't say.
You don't say. Very reminiscent of, say, Park Life by Blur, the song. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, this album made me understand that I am neither hip nor with it when it comes to the life of a working class member of the society of Britain, where I imagine that's what they feel when they hear like bluegrass. There are a lot of things I didn't get, but I did not know that I was going to get a sing-song story telled. Dared to kill the king's deer. Dip fed Fred. Like, seriously. I was not expecting that from the kids that talk about what father's wearing on Sunday, or where the location of their house was. Johnny the horse.
Sorry, that song makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, it's the weirdest mix of like a really good hook and really shitty strings. It's pretty amazing. You can find all of these on YouTube at the time of this recording. Please do. And Elysium, I had no idea that songs were made that sounded like this that far into the future, because holy crap, that was you have the cheesy synth effects, like a licks only saxophone, like the saxophone's just hanging out waiting to, like, I gotta tear it up here. I'm not gonna do anything else, but when you point over to me, I'm gonna be rock and roll sax man.
Yeah.
But they had a tone that sounded 80s, and like really, like it's I'm not mad at them about it. I'm not upset, but man, they stuck true to their roots.
Yes.
For the tone, at least.
Yes.
But yeah, like they have it down to an art.
Yeah.
As shown by this album.
I saw a couple of shows at the Elysium. It's just off, I think, on 7th Street in Austin.
Who is that starring?
No, it's the club. It's a really cool little rock club.
When you go to the
pee
club,
in a trough. You can pee in the trough, and you can if you have to poo, there's no door in the stall, so you kind of you can. All right.
So when you poo, everybody poos.
Yeah, when you poo,
so it's a punk rock club, is what you're telling me.
Exactly.
You're telling me there's a punk rock club in Florida.
Austin, Texas.
Go figure.
Go figure. There's
Austin,
apparently a rock club in Austin, Texas. There's actually quite a few of them, supposedly. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
My favorite on here is kind of the one I'm gonna tune in on is Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, because organs for the motherfucking win. And I know they're a little bit cheesy sounding organs, but I love a good organ. And it was a fun song, and it was the closest song to like Our House that was on here, where it was that ska infused pop music, bouncy and fun and catchy, and I thought that one worked. Love Struck was kind of nice. It leaned a little more piano rock, which is fine with me. I think somewhere in the chain between like Billy Joel and Elton John making music and like Ben Folds wailing on a piano rock, somebody heard Our House and Madness just wailing on pianos in the 80s. And I feel like it's the link that binds piano and rock music, and it reminds us all that there need to be more piano players in rock. Like, it is such a good instrument if you hit it hard and you have some fun with it.
With your organ.
Yeah, I mean, the cringe-worthy synths get old. I just want someone to remix this without the strings. But I think if you take the songs for the songs, I think a lot of them would sound good just with the 7 or so guys that are the core of Madness and add a couple of, auxiliary horn players, because that's what you do when you're a ska band. You just tack 6, 7, 8, 135 horn players onto the end of your band.
Mm-hmm. Nothing like a good organ, especially when you hit it hard. Let's go back around the horn to hear some conclusive thoughts about the album. Brett, what would be your thoughts on the album as a whole?
It's kind of weird. To further on that, this album does something. It proves that you can have a timeless sound, but not, and that can be not always a good thing. But if you're wanting to stay true to what the sound that you were looking for originally, and you stick with that for as long as they stuck with it, they get a pat on the back, because like they really had that 80s working dude sound going for them, and they did it with skill. Just it was not my can of beans.
Not your can of beans. Patrick, what would be your conclusive thoughts about the album?
Go listen to One Step Beyond and Absolutely and The Rise and Fall and 7. I think those are all Better Madness records. It's not all bad, but it's sort of, when you take a band that has existed for that long and you have enough of a catalog that you pick from, my mind is let's pick the best, and I don't think this is their best work, but it's not to say that Madness aren't awesome, because they definitely have some good stuff. Just go stand flip on YouTube, turn up the loudest set of speakers you have, and blast One Step Beyond, and tell me it doesn't make your day better. Mm-hmm. And piss off the neighbors.
That wouldn't make my day better.
It's because you have no soul, Brett.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Drew, what would be your conclusive thoughts about the album?
To me, Madness is a band that I am sad that more people don't know more of what they do. As I said over here, a lot of people do not know the name of Madness, and they only know them because of the one song. In the UK, this album charted, I believe, 17th on the UK album charts, and Madness is still a name in the UK that gets a lot of play. But over here, I think that kind of doesn't happen, which kind of sucks, because I think they are some great musicians that make some really fun tunes. This album, it might not be everyone's favorite by them, and even by Madness fans, this is not everyone's favorite, but it, to me, is one of the more fun records to come out recently. I don't know, I say 1999 recently, but it's one of the more fun records to come out in my recent memory, and it's just really a fun listen, and has a lot of really catchy songs on it. And to me, I like to push bands out there that I think kind of went by the wayside, or people might know one or two songs, but they haven't delved in. And to me, Madness is one of those bands. And I think this was just a fun one to go by.
Mm-hmm. And that concludes our thoughts on Madness is Wonderful. Now we get to our main event of the evening. We get to our haiku review, where we summarize everything into a little shitty excuse for a Japanese poem. Let's go see who's going to start us off. Patrick, what is your haiku?
A welcome return, marred by overproduction, but it has its moments.
Brett, what is your haiku?
A bunch of old blokes saying things all silly like hippopotamus.
Hippopotamus? My haiku. British and Scofield. It's good groovy tunes and wit had me toe tapping. Drew, finally, what is your haiku?
Wonderful Madness is exactly what I'd describe. Guys can still do ska.
And that concludes our thoughts fully on this album, Wonderful by Madness. go check it out on the internet, not on our Spotify playlist, unfortunately. Again, only in the UK. They should have brought it over here. They didn't import it. You can try to import it on Amazon. I might try to do that. But you can find it on
YouTube.
You can go to YouTube, yeah. It's onto the YouTubes. But find a way to go ahead and buy it, pick it up, and listen to the album if you're interested. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record. We're gonna have, though he hasn't confirmed yet. We know he's gonna say yes.
We're gonna bully him.
We're gonna bully him. Squiggles McGee himself. We're gonna bring him back. Have a proper episode this time. Kind of make up for that time. But this time we're gonna make him listen to something. And Brett, what are we gonna make him listen to?
Oh, we're going to listen to Parliament's Mothership Connection, because that's something that he has not heard, and
Yes.
I want to explain to him that George Clinton is like a parallel universe's Jerry Garcia.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, it's gonna be our thing where we bring back a guest. We're gonna figure out something to make them listen to. So when we run out of new guests, or we decide we want to bring back old friends, that's going to be the thing.
Or we get tired of our old formulas and and saying refrigerator and hippopotamus.
Yes.
We'll bring Squiggles in to be our foil.
Yes. But that's it. This, of course, you can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbard, HIBBITYBIBBARD.
You heard?
Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. YouTube.com/RebelliTV. Keep an eye out. This weekend, I'm going to be at ASIN, so I'm going to be putting out content from there. It's going to be me, King Kaz, and DJM in one hotel room. Doing fun things. Maybe for the public to see, maybe not.
For the inside scoop, follow at Hibbity Bibbard.
That just got weird.
Oh, it's always weird when me and Kaz are around. But that's it. iTunes, Stitcher, subscribe and share and like, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Annyeong. Fighting!
And I seriously will never refer to Kaz on this show as anybody other than the unofficial poet laureate of the Record Breakers. I'm going to make a medal for him at work. I'm going to smelt an award.
Can't you laser cut that shit? Do you have a water jet table?
I can find round things laying around, like the drops when they cut things out. Yeah, so I can find round plate steel, and I will like weld in script. The official poet laureate.
Remember, he who smelt it felt it.
That's right.
Get him.